Here at the Digital News Desk with our weekly update with Watertown Mayor Sarah Pierce to talk about tonight's agenda being Monday, October 21st. A lot to talk about, including the ethics complaint, which looks like it will move forward against Council Member Cliff Olney. So thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
A lot of other things on the agenda as well. One of the things, a new sound system for the arena, right?
Yes.
For hockey games or for anything happening down there?
For anything that will be at the arena. This is something that has, it's been a need over the course of the past few years, probably beyond that, but just sound system upgrades to the arena. This is going to be paid for through American Rescue Plan Act funds, so it will be a better experience for anybody that's visiting the arena for a hockey game or other types of events.
Another one that's on there is dealing with the zoo, and this is a formal agreement between the zoo and the city of Watertown with how things will go up in Thompson Park. Kind of explain what it is. It's sort of a lease agreement, I guess.
Sure. So it's a public benefit services agreement, and essentially it outlines the agreement with the zoo. And the main thing that it does, it allows them to start tapping into the funds that were allocated to them in the most recent budget, $250,000. Unique from past years, it has some, I guess, strings attached to accessing those funds. So they'll have to demonstrate what those funds are being used for. It's just a little bit more accountability and oversight when it comes to using the monies that were allocated to them.
So the benchmarks kind of to make sure they're using the money correctly. And not to say that they haven't been,
no.
But it's something in terms of supporting the zoo that you wanted to, and others wanted more kind of be able to show progress, I guess, with the investment that they're. Let me ask you about the zoo, because when the money was being asked for and going back and forth with zoo officials, you stuck with you want to see, or it's time to reimagine what the zoo looks like. Some changes have been made up there, some improvements have been made. Any thought on where the zoo stands here today, or do you still see it needing to be reimagined?
I think that the zoo and the board have definitely made some good progress in terms of what I've seen as far as events and sponsorships go. I still am not 100% sold that that will be a viable operation model for the long term. We still don't know where the county stands on their on the zoo's request for funding from them, so that's a major piece of the puzzle. It's clear to me that there's not a majority on city council that wants to proceed with a reimagining of sorts. If there was a majority of the council that wanted to go that route, I'd certainly kind of get more aggressive with ideas for reimagining, but at this time it looks like they want to give the zoo more time to see if the efforts that they're making now are feasible for the long term.
And the $250,000 in the budget that was already passed, is that going to be a reoccurring request, do you think? Is that something that'll be in each budget after this, or time will tell?
I think it's a situation where time will tell.
The ethics complaint against Council Member Cliff Olney will move forward here tonight again, Monday, October 21st. Why is it important that this moves forward? And I guess I got to give a little history to it. The complaint came from last year, former Mayor Jeff Smith, making allegations against the council member about keeping information confidential or not having a conflict of interest on certain things, including the golf course. Ethics board went ahead and they decided that there was some merit to this. They kicked it back to the city council, but then the point was raised, well, wait a minute, Mr. Olney didn't have a chance to be in front of the ethics board in order to defend himself or tell his side of the story. He had that chance earlier this month. He chose not to be there because it was not going to be an open session. It was going to be behind closed doors, and Mr. Olney has said that he wants this to be a transparent process. Ethics board continued with what they were doing. They rendered the decision that yes, what we said last year remains, or if it was earlier this year, I forget, but it remains. Our original decision remains. Now it's in City Council's hand tonight to do what?
Tonight essentially will be another step in moving forward with that process. As you noted, it's been about 6 weeks since we adopted the resolution and modified it that gave council member only the opportunity to appear before the Board of Ethics. As you noted, he declined to do so. So this essentially is the resolution that we would have passed originally 6 weeks ago that would move forward with a hearing process. So what this will do will indicate council support for moving forward with a hearing where we will, be able to ask Mr. Olney questions about the complaint, hear his side of the story. So it's just essentially what we're doing tonight is formalizing a decision to move forward with a hearing.
And what's the ultimate goal, I guess, from your
I think
from
the
your
ultimate
standpoint?
goal is to bring this process to a conclusion. I mean, I don't care who it is. If there's allegations of ethical wrongdoing, the council has a responsibility to deal with them and react to them and go through the process. And so that's what we're doing, is we're going through the process. And as I've said many times before, it would not be my goal to see somebody removed from office, but I think it's important that you deal with these complaints to ensure that everything is being done on the up and up. And that's all that this is, essentially. And the thing that I keep going back to is, you know, putting myself in Mr. Olney's shoes. If it was me who was being accused of ethical wrongdoing, I would want to do anything and everything to let people know that that wasn't the case. And so that's why it's kind of confusing to me that he continues to drag this out, avoid opportunities to formally share his side of the story, provide all the evidence to people. And I think I would, again, if I was in his shoes, I would want the opportunity to do that. And, you know, I hope he will take this opportunity to do that and participate in the hearing. But that's essentially why I think it's important to move forward. When these claims are made, you can't just sweep them under the rug. You have to deal with them, as unfortunate as that is.
He will say it, and others will say it, that Mayor Pierce just wants to kick him off council. This is her way of getting here off council.
I mean, I hear him continue to say that. That's the exact opposite of what I've been saying for a year since this has been going on. It's certainly not my goal, but again, I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's a political ally of mine. I don't care if it's Council Member Olney. It doesn't matter who it is. If there's allegations of ethical wrongdoing, you have to deal with them.
So again, not to kick him off.
No,
That's
I mean,
not your goal.
that's certainly not my goal. I mean, we'll see what the evidence is, but that's, as I've said, never been my goal.
There's so many larger things, and ethics is important, of course, we all know that, but there are larger things that council really needs to address, you know, whether it's upcoming budgets, how
Sure,
to pay for
yeah.
this, how to pay for that. If Mr. Olney were to, Councilmember Olney were to move forward and just say, you know what, okay, maybe I screwed up, maybe I shouldn't have done this, can we just put this behind us? If he owned something, not saying he has to or if he should, but if he did, if he does see that, okay, I could see where something was misconstrued or that I shouldn't have done something. If he took that stance, could this all be over with? Or do you still think you go through the whole process?
I still think you have to go through with the hearing process. That's the process that's outlined for us to follow, and he would have an opportunity to do that during a hearing process. And I think that, as you said, there's so many larger issues to deal with. I will say for myself personally, I don't think about this a lot. It's pretty cut and dry to me. You have somebody who is accused of ethical wrongdoing, you move forward with the process and see if those claims are substantiated. My focus has still been on the big issues in the city. It is a distraction, but it's not something I spend a significant time thinking about. Again, it's pretty cut and dry to me.
You may be spending money on this now because let's talk about the legal side of this. The current city attorney made mention that the ethics board should have different representation from the city because of a conflict of interest. Did I get that right?
Correct.
So she feels that someone else should be representing the Board of Ethics. And not to say anything about Councilmember Olney and his desire to have representation. Has the city found a lawyer that would or is taking on this right now?
We have not at this point. I know that the city manager has kind of put some feelers out to see if we'd be able to secure a firm that would take this on, but no commitments have been made yet.
So if that happens, or when that happens, if it goes to a hearing, you've got to have representation. And some may say you should have representation before right now, but you're going to start spending money on that. That's where I'm going with this.
Right.
So how much, and we've asked you in the past, and I don't know if the number has changed, how much could the city be spending on the legal bills here of this ethics complaint and having this hearing instead of just having Mr. Olney, if he wants to, say, I'm done with this?
That was my question a while back when this started, is why do we have to have such a formal process? Can we just go ahead with having a hearing? But the opinion is that we need to have that legal representation to make sure everything's done on the up and up and that we're doing things appropriately, which I totally get. The estimate that we heard back when all this started was somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000, unfortunately. So it's, it's unfortunate that we would have to spend that money, but it's an important part of the process, I would say.
If you're worried about having things done on the up and up, I mean, you had the decision from the city lawyer, current representation, saying I can't be part of this conflict of interest. The ethics board has been acting all along up to this point without any sort of legal representation, right? So
they had legal representation back when all of this started.
When it started, but after the current city attorney said, I can't be part of this, you guys need to find somebody else, that ethics committee board went back at it, had discussions, decided that it all had to be behind closed doors, told Mr. Olney that he could defend himself, which was the original, that was a recommendation, but it was going to be behind closed doors. But who did they consult in terms of making sure what they're doing is legal, or just making sure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed? There's a lack of representation right now for that ethics board.
For that one meeting where they decided to meet, we did not have an attorney present. No.
Yeah.
So they decided to meet, they reviewed the evidence again, and then substantiated their claim.
And do you think that they should have somebody in there, or you're okay with this board doing it
I
without?
mean, I think best case scenario would have been to have legal representation. Obviously, like I said, we have not secured a firm to continue with us during this process. Do I think it was absolutely necessary? I'm not 100% sold that it would be absolutely necessary to have an attorney in that meeting. I think they were doing essentially what they did before under the guidance of the previous council that was working with them. So, I mean, I think to your point, it's important to have legal representation moving forward.
It's just to protect the city, right? I mean,
yeah,
that's a big one.
Yes.
And then I think Mr. Olney has said from that Thursday when he learned that he had a chance to be in front of that board, it only gave him a couple of days to prepare for that.
Well, to be clear, he has known about these claims for over a year. For 6 weeks, he knew that he was going to have an opportunity to appear before the ethics board again. I keep going back to what would I do if I was in his shoes. I would have lined up my evidence, what I was going to say, some sort of legal counsel. I think that he did have a lot of time to be able to do that, regardless of when the board met.
And so in making that decision that they're only going to have a couple of days, are there any bylaws or anything that say that you have to give that person within that Board of Ethics to say if you're going to call someone in front of you to the Board of Ethics, you have to give them so many days notice, like a public hearing? You have to give so much notice and stuff.
Not
do you know
to my
if anything?
knowledge,
Yeah.
no.
So how do you hope that this goes here tonight? Do you think it'll pass in terms of like moving forward? Tonight's the vote with council of moving forward with the process against Mr. Olney, Councilmember Olney, and it would bring about a hearing, right? How do you think that'll go tonight?
I think a majority of the city council has indicated that they're supportive of seeing this process to its conclusion. So I think that this resolution will move forward. We'll move forward with the process and hopefully put an end to things here soon, or wrap things up here soon.
Mm-hmm. Anything else on the agenda tonight that you're wanting to talk about
No,
here?
those were the big things that you hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
All right.
Other than one quick thing
Sure.
to change gears totally.
Is this the haunted Halloween?
This
Yeah,
is
I wanted to ask you about that. Okay, so
I
is this
have
new for
that
you or not?
Yeah, this is something that I just kind of came up with, honestly, because the Halloween decorations throughout the city, I feel like people have really raised the bar this year.
They have.
Honestly, it's part of my routine every night is kind of driving around my daughter and looking at them. But I said, I've seen other communities do this where people can vote for who has the best Halloween decorations in the city. So I set something up on my social media, and I think we'll be able to put it on the city website. People can go on, submit the address of the house that they think is doing the best job with their Halloween decorations, and then whoever gets the most votes will be awarded a Halloween gift basket, essentially, with a gift card from Ricardo's Market, some other goodies in there. But I set that up over the weekend. I think we've already got like 150 votes. So I want to keep it going. And the contest will run through November 1st. And I'll put up a list of the houses that have been voted on so far, so people can kind of like take a drive around and
What are you
cast their
seeing
vote
that's
for the
most
favorites.
impressive? What have you seen that you really,
Honestly,
really like?
Not to like plug any
don't have
one
to give an
house in
address or anything,
particular,
but-
but there's this one house that it's a corner lot, and they have like those animatronics all on the fence line there, and it's like, I mean, I can't even imagine how much money that costs, but it's very, very impressive. And I'm told that there's a lot of houses over on the north side too that have some really great Halloween decorations. So people, as I've said, they've really upped the ante this year.
Yeah, yeah. And to be fair, I mean, the manufacturers have really come up with some
Oh,
fun
yeah.
ideas, right? And technology has just gotten
Yeah,
better
I mean,
for
there's
this.
the technology, and then there's like people who are clearly doing it themselves. I mean, like at our house, we have ghosts that are made out of tomato cages. Like people are really getting creative with stuff like that. So just to, again, like bring some community spirit to Watertown.
And social media has the DIY ideas, right? The
Yes,
do-it-yourself
yeah.
stuff is so easy to do that sort of stuff. So, so it's all going to be on your Facebook page?
Yeah, on my Facebook page, and we'll put a link to it on the city website too.
All right, very good. So that's our discussion here this week with the mayor. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.